Hey, what's going on, guys? Okay, thank you for coming back to another broadcast at Ellis Network in the morning. Grab your coffee, grab your orange juice, your juice, whatever you got to do to wake up. Sit back, listen to this broadcast. We're going to get into a little bit about the Maryland shooter that happened yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about North Korea, and I'm also going to get in a little bit more in depth within Syria, Iran, and Israel. That part of the broadcast is just going to be more of a something to keep an eye out for. I'm not saying anything major within the United States is happening in that region. However, this could spiral out of control and put America into the melting pot, if I could say. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the shooting, Maryland. This is coming out from USA Today. They caught the guy. Desperate suspect caught after manhunt, deadly Maryland shooter rampage. This article basically goes into, what he did. If you guys know it, he's actually shot 6 people. When it was first coming out at the Advanced Granite Solutions place within Maryland, it was a place of his work. That's where he worked at. He shot 5, killed 3, and then on the run, he hopped over into Delaware. I think it was called Wilmington, Delaware, and he shot another person. So they're saying six shootings. That I read that from CNN and I was very confused for a moment. I thought maybe there were 6 separate locations, but that's not the case. There was only 6 people that got shot. But this article is coming out from US Today, and I thought I'd bring it out to you guys a little bit. Give you guys a little bit of detail, man. What it's saying about this individual, it's kind of makes you wonder, like, what the hell's going on here. We don't know. I don't really know the motive. They saying that it's a work-related incident. Maybe his coworkers were, bullying him, teasing him. I don't know. But let me give you a little backdrop on the story about what this guy's all about, and maybe you guys will you'll have the same questions that I got. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. Massive manhunt across 2 states ended with the arrest Wednesday night of a man wanted for a Maryland workplace shooting rampage that left 3 people dead and 2 others critically wounded, the authorities are saying in their area. Prince was apprehended in Delaware by ATF agents and other law enforcement officers, the Hanford County Sheriff's Office tweeted Wednesday. The sheriff's office said Wednesday night on its Facebook page that the people who died, and I can't pronounce any of these names. They look Russian. Anyways, the article be posted. You guys can read this. And it says that this does appear to be a targeted attack for that business. So like I said, I don't know if maybe his coworkers were being a bully, being mean to him. I don't know what conspired this to happen. But what I'm about to show you guys that this article is saying, it's really not that much of a hard idea to get to where he got. So anyways, as I was reading this, and this is what blew my mind. Police in Wilmington, Delaware said that they were also looking for Prince in connection with the shooting in a short time after a Maryland attack. Police and Prince lived in Wilmington, Delaware, about 50 miles northeast of Edgewood. Gunman is believed to have driven to Wilmington after the Edgewood attack. He targeted a man with whom he had beefs with in the past, shooting him twice at the used car lot, the police said. Now this next thing is going to blow your guys' mind. Prince had an extensive criminal history in Delaware. Wilmington Police Chief Robert Tracy said that at an afternoon press conference that Prince has been arrested 42 times in Delaware alone. 42 times in Delaware, just Delaware alone. Like, what? Tracy said the criminal records included 15 felony convictions, 4 misdemeanor convictions, and numerous arrests for violations of probation. So this guy has been in prison, he has felonies, he has misdemeanors, and he's been on probation numerous times. Asked at a press conference why someone with such a long criminal record could be walking free, Tracy said, "I ask myself that sometimes too." So they asked the police chief, and the police chief he couldn't answer as to why a criminal of this magnitude was still able to walk around. I mean, he's been on, 15 felony charges, multiple misdemeanors, violations of probation. I mean, this is definitely someone that's not benefiting society. Now, it doesn't go into depth like what those charges was, if they were violent, non-violent, stuff like that. If there are violent people who are causing carnage in the community, we got to find a way to keep them behind bars so they cannot go out and re-offend, he said. Earlier Wednesday evening, authorities closed in on Prince. Tracy said the suspect declared a handgun and ran, or disregarded a handgun, and ran when police spotted him walking in the town of Glasgow, Delaware. After running 75 feet, he was arrested. No one was hurt in the apprehension. So they caught him. No police officers were injured. They got him off the streets. Hopefully with this, they'll lock him up for life. I mean, come on, guys. He has that extensive criminal background. I mean, even if the judicial system within the United States actually worked like it should, this crime would have never happened. This shooting would have never happened. These 3 people that lost their lives yesterday would have never lost their lives. This is the judicial system. The judges, the courts, they failed the American people in this situation. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's the truth. Alright, so I'll post a link in the description for this article. You guys can read it. It gives a little bit more in depth. I'm just reading. And I know my reading's not the greatest, guys. I'm just waking up. You know how I do over here. So anyways, we're going to hop into the next subject, and that's North Korea. And of course, Kim Jong-un, he's back at it again, making his threats. Even with the United States sitting over there doing the massive military drills. Which later on, I'm going to look for the article that's showing that the United States brought over 3,500 heavy equipment, whether or not be armored vehicles or Abraham tanks. All that U.S. military equipment's inside the region. Now it brings me to, speculate that maybe in fact that they're using the military drill as a ploy for actual invasion. That's still left to be unseen. I mean, there's so much speculation going on right now with all the back and forth threatenings, and then United States actually on its back doorstep with all of this equipment. Now we know that China's been building up its forces on its border with North Korea, and even Russia has moved in some of its anti-air defenses on the southern part of its border going into North Korea as well. So, we see all this military movement from every angle. Japan's ramping up and getting its defense ready. South Korea is actually getting involved, preparing itself, and even China and Russia. And, as of right now, we know that China's been following dialogue with the United States, with the UN sanctions and trying to have diplomatic talks. And so far, nothing has happened. So we know that China's helping trying to de-escalate the situation. But they also stated plenty of times, guys, that if there's an actual strike, a preemptive strike that America will do on Kim Jong-un, they will interfere. And we don't know if that's going to be them protecting North Korea, or they're actually going to be over there and helping us overthrow, or maybe they're going to be over there for their own personal agenda. And then we got Russia to worry about. Okay, guys, and when we talk about Russia, you guys got to take Russia as a collective. We've had issues with them, recently. Think about it. For the last year, we've been blaming Russia for the elections. Okay, now it's coming out with Uranium One that Russia is heavily involved in that. UN sanctions being put on Russia. We've had a lot of Russian back and forth inside of Syria. If you guys go back and watch any of my recent videos, I think about a month ago is when I was really covering that story. you guys will see that, Russia, we haven't been the greatest with Russia. So it's only states, it only brings question as to what's going to happen when we get to that point. So anyways, this article says North Korea warns U.S. of unimaginable strike. Again, United States military, we're over there. We're doing military drills with South Korea. We know that President Trump, has said numerous things that raises questions. We know that Kim Jong-un is still making his threats with his salvos of missiles towards Guam. Now he's talking about an imaginable strike towards the U.S. So this is just more provocative tones coming from Kim. My question is how long is President Trump going to sit back and let him keep just running his mouth? Because it seems like that's the only thing that Kim's good at. However, there's been times in the past when he says that he's going to do something, he's done it. So, there's that teeter-totter situation that we got going on. Is he going to do it? Is he not? We don't know. It's definitely one of those things that if he does do strikes, people's going to lose their lives. So, now I can see where President Trump's very, well, what do we do? Do we go in and strike him? Because if you do that, innocent people's going to lose their lives. And even if they don't get him the first strike, Kim's going to retaliate. And South Korea and Japan is actually in its crosshairs. He has a better chance of striking those areas than he does Guam right at the moment. So, there's millions of people in that region that, if the winds shift one way or the other, millions of people could lose their lives. So, anyways, let's get into this a little bit, guys. Try to keep the broadcast going. This is coming from Beijing. An angry North Korea is lashing out again, issuing a new threat of military action against the U.S. The country's state-run media said Thursday that Americans should expect an imaginable strike at an unexpected time. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't going to be anytime soon because we're expecting war to break out. Like I said, I expect to wake up one morning in the near future to hear that war broke out in the Korean Peninsula. Then I expect to wake up and hear that we found a diplomatic solution. I brought that out last night. And the warnings come out just 2 days after the North Korean official said that a nuclear war may break out at any moment. I brought that out to you guys 2 days ago. 2 nights ago, I believe it was. That's what was being said. So, now they're talking about an imaginable strike at an unexpected time. In its latest threat, North Korea called the U.S. and South Korea warmongers who could cause a nuclear war. That threat comes, however, during the appears to be a lull in the North's missile test. It has been more than a month since they launched a rocket. But Tracy says North Korea is clearly very upset about the joint military exercise that the U.S. and South Korean navies are currently conducting in waters off the peninsula. So he's nervous. Kim Jong-un's very nervous. Once they found out that South Korea Special Forces were training in location and assassination plans, and then also when we learned that the United States has a special force team out there called the Decapitative Team, and it's been known that these teams are supposed to go in quietly into enemy territory and carry out assassinations. Ever since North Korea found that out, what's in his area, they're at very high risk. They're being careful with what they do. So I'm surprised that Kim's even making these threats this late. The article goes a little bit more in detail. It's like what happened in the past to lead us up to this point. It has some photos of the carriers that's in the peninsula. Those drills include the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier as well as the Navy destroyers. The U.S. military says the exercise is designed to increase the readiness of a nation's combined forces, but North Korea sees it as a rehearsal for an invasion. The North says the exercises are driving the tensions into the worst line of explosion and prove that the U.S. and South Korea are attempting to ignite a war on the Korean Peninsula. See, Kim is just saying all these things, and he knows, we've given him time and time again to stop. Other countries have gotten involved and tried to get him to stop. China's cut off pretty much all his resources, money-wise. And now that they're rebuilding, not rebuilding, but there's life sparked back at the Hotel of Doom, that massive hotel that they've been working on since the late 80s. So, where's the finances coming from if China was one of their biggest supporters? Now, we know at North Korea, well, you guys may not know, but I've been reading a little bit into it, that North Korea's hacking campaign is top-notch. They've been hacking banks around the world. It could be, in fact, that, maybe they're hacking other people's accounts and government accounts and taking money and depositing it elsewhere for their use. Regardless, they're doing illegal shit. So, anyways, guys, that's just another thing to keep an eye out for that situation. This is what's being said in the Korean Peninsula. Let's go ahead and hop over into Syria and Israel real quick. Now, most of you guys know, if you guys go back on my channel, we've talked about this quite a bit. I brought out a video 2 days ago saying that the Middle East is still going on. It's just not being as mainstream as much. Now, what we do know is that, alright, so take President Trump. We know that he does not agree with the Iran nuclear deal. There's been a lot of back and forth on that. Threats made from Iran's government and also threats made from the United States government about it. Now, we know Syria, we've been involved in Syria and Israel. Now, we know that President Trump backs Israel up 100%. We just opened up a military base in that area. I brought out a video not too long ago talking about Israel is actually doing airstrikes inside of Syria. And now, Iran is pledging its allegiance with Syria against Israel. They're saying that they think that Israel's airstrike campaign is unacceptable. They're wanting to team up with Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad, from what we know, back in the past, he's wanted to better relations with Israel. For some reason, that's changed. So anyways, you have Iran, you have Syria, Hezbollah, and Hamas over there in Gaza. All gearing up towards Israel. We know that Vladimir Putin was over in Israel, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and they had talks about Syria. Vladimir Putin does not want to go to war with Israel. He stands with Israel as well. But we already know that his involvement, he's too deep with Syria. So that really puts Russia at a very tight spot, that if Syria and Iran does in fact decide to invade Israel, is Russia and Vladimir Putin going to be there invading with them, or is he going to stay back? And the other big question is, if that happens, we already know what Americans' involvement inside of Syria. They think that he gassed his own people, and they actually want to overthrow Bashar al-Assad's government. And we also know about how President Trump feels about the Iran nuclear deal that the Obama and Clinton administration gave him. So if these two were to force up and go towards Israel, I wonder what President Trump would do. Now, that could be another situation, like I said earlier in this video, that if you guys pay attention to it, it could be another situation that could spiral out of control that would, in fact, put us in an engagement. So, if we forget about North Korea for a moment and get back to the Middle East, that's another thing, that's another situation that's bottlenecking, that could overflow and go 1,000 different ways, with or without United States involvement. But we've heard President Trump say he stands with Israel. He'll do what he needs to do to protect Israel. So if this actually happens, guys, like I said, just be on the lookout for it. We don't know what's going to happen. But tensions are rising in that region as well. So anyways, guys, I'm going to hop off here. Give me a couple minutes to upload this video and put all the links in. And I'll see you guys later.